Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 28. Stick with us today as we hang out with a man who has defied age in BJJ. And remember to go out and check out rollamongus.com for all your fight gear needs. Fight shorts, rash guards, gis, t-shirts. rollamongus.com. At checkout, put in Limitless20. And also go out and check out battlebomb.com. They have CBD and non-CBD infused rub for all those aches and pains that you might get during any kind of training, everyday work, everyday life. Remember, at checkout, Limitless20 for a 20% discount, battlebomb.com. And we are proud to bring this show to you by Magic City Brewing Company located in Akron, Ohio. Go out, check them out. Great place ran by great people. Also, check out M&H Beans for all your coffee needs. Get a subscription. They'll ship all over the world. They have amazing coffee, some of the best coffee in the world. On this show, we drink it all the time. It's drank in my household. We drink it multiple times. Dad speakers, highly recommend. Go out there, check out M&H Beans. Without further ado, thanks for joining us and enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today, we're hanging out with a fellow Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. He is a third-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Dan McCarthy, thank you so much for hanging out with us, man. Appreciate it very much. Look forward to talking to you.
My pleasure. Looking forward to it.
And you and Chad have, some messaging history, right? You guys kind of text back and forth, and there's some background there of how you guys met, isn't there?
Well, not officially met, but
well, yeah,
yeah,
through the jiu-jitsu vine of
yes.
We're like texting girlfriends, you know. We go back and forth with videos with one another, and we're like, "Hey, dude, how you doing?"
Nice.
You know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Look at this move. You know, my hair looks great today, even though I have no hair. So
yeah. That's what you guys have in common, right? Nothing to do with jiu-jitsu. It's just
right.
Call on hair days.
I got Dan hooked on loop chokes.
Yeah, exactly. I trained for 23 years, never did a loop choke. And then Chad showed me James Klingerman's loop choke video. And James tried to give it to me for free, and I was too dumb to figure out how to download it for free, so I paid him. You know, and James said, "I did so much work to give this to you for free," and I said, "Well, I gave you $20, I guess."
That's awesome.
And now loop chokes are part of my thing. I actually sometimes don't even do them because they're so easy to get. So.
It's when you're there and you're in it. And Chad and I loved that series. He taught that series last summer is when we went through it, and it was phenomenal. And ever since then, every time I'm always thinking in certain positions, can I get my arm around? And then this week we just went over almost like a side control from a turtle position loop choke, which was awesome. And did you send that? Did you send that video to him? Yeah, that video as he's loop choking me on the ground. But I love that one's nice, and that's very unassuming, especially if you're trying to grab for the lapel underneath and all that, to pull them out and then to bring your arm back around. It can be quick. So yeah, loop chokes are sweet. I like them. I'm with you.
No doubt. I mean, James is another guy I've never met, but I've copied a lot of his stuff because, he's a great teacher on video. Not everyone can do that well. And,
sure.
And he explains things, and he's funny, but technical. So for me, I appreciated learning that without a doubt. I mean, every day I'm on the mat, I'm learning something new. And that's kind of my mindset. I go in and I try to train harder than the white belts and the young guys. I never stop because I feel like what I need to do is show people that if some old guy can shrimp up and down the mat and take it seriously, they better do it too. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome too. That's a good mantra. And it's also, it's a good and kind of a delightful way to coach. You know what I mean? The younger guys are like, man, that guy's working. That guy's grinding over there. He's putting in what he has to do, and look at him and look where he's went with jiu-jitsu. So that's sweet. I like it,
Yeah.
Cool.
Be a leader by example, and, that way, and then go kick their butt when you start rolling.
Love it. Totally love it. So you had my friend Giancarlo on a while. Yeah, he's a great dude.
Yeah, he's a very great dude. Very good. His instructional videos are very good too, and just go ahead, Dan.
It's no different than the way he teaches because, he came out and he was an instructor or is an instructor at Bernardo's, and he's very systematic. You can tell that he takes his training very seriously. It's almost as if it's a mathematician in a way, where one link, goes to another link, which goes to another link. And I think that he probably learned that through, first of all, that's probably the way he is wired. But Lucas Lepre does the same thing. Yeah. And so I think that he listens really, really well to teaching systematically. So I taught over there and he taught over there. I learned a lot from him. So it was a real blessing to be involved with him.
Yeah, he's a good dude. And the lineup of guys you were training with at Bernardo's is ridiculous, right? I mean,
it is. Every day on the mat you had to be ready, but I think that being ready means just having your mind open. If you worry about getting your ass kicked, you'll be stressed and it won't be productive, without a doubt. So you just go and kind of try to put your best effort forward and realize that every time you're on the mat, someone's teaching you something, and that's the bottom line. And that, I think, takes a lot of the stress away, without a doubt, because it can be stressful when you're looking down the line at 5 black belts that are killer, and some of them half your age, some of them world champions. And so you can look down the mat and say, how am I going to do this? Or you could look down the mat and say, wow, I get to do this. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's huge. Yeah.
So it makes it so great. Yeah. And that's the great mindset to have. It's the proper mindset to have, honestly. Like I'm privileged to do that. It's like respecting the mat and everybody you're around, that mantra. And, we've called it, living the jiu-jitsu life, but that's what it really is, from that mindset. And, it's like, it's a privilege to do this. And it's an honor to be able to roll with these, killer black belts that have put in the time and that stuff. Was there a time, were you intimidated at all, Dan? Like,
it's a good question. I am not immune to being intimidated, so I'm not Superman or anything like that. Sure. But I think that through my life experience, the way I was brought up and stuff like that, that I just kind of show up and I do things. And I look at the next best option. So I really don't get all that nervous. What drives me is that after I roll with someone, they know I put in my best effort. And that's the way I judge myself. And so like rolling with Giancarlo, I remember one time we had a 7-minute roll because he was getting ready for something. And for the first 6 minutes, it was super, super competitive. And I kind of died in the last minute, which was all good. But I knew I put in my best effort, and that's what I could do. At 4.5 minutes, I wanted to give up, but I put in my best effort. And so that's generally what I try to teach my guys when I teach them is I say, your mindset on the mat should be simply to put in your best effort. And also, if you don't feel great, if you're tired, you're there to train for your training partner. You're not there just to train for you. And I think that's another part of training which you should bring to the mat, because if you do that, if you allow your ego to ruin you because you got tapped or ruin you because you got your guard passed, you're going to be pretty miserable if you're looking down the mat and there are a whole bunch of good guys. Because what it's going to happen. Exactly. It's going to happen I'm going to pass, someone's guard who's really good, and they're going to laugh and give me a high five because they're experienced. They get it. But I think to get to that next level, when you don't, especially with 5 kids and running a business, I often go to the mat and I'm tired. Just shift my mindset. And I say, listen, today I'm tired. Today I'm exhausted. Today I'm going to train for my training partners, and I'm going to give them a look that maybe helps them down the road. And that's all I'm training for. And then I blank everything else out of my mind.
Yeah. That's
I don't
what
know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that's what getting on the mats is part of, is those bad days. As soon as you bow and step on the mats, for me, it's gone. All that other stuff we forget about, during that hour, 2 hours, whatever you're training. So
yeah.
I tell people all the time, like, my dad passed away in 2009, and I spent the time with my family, and I went to roll that night. Like I needed that outlet to get on the mats and be with my other family. You know what I mean? So
yep.
It's huge.
That's awesome. Yep. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So yeah, that must have been hard. Sorry to hear about your dad.
Oh yeah. Easy. No. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So. No doubt at all. So, well,
are you going to have the opportunity? Sorry, Dan. I was going to ask you if you had are you going to have the opportunity to teach there in Tennessee?
I already have.
Awesome.
What's so cool is Samuel Braga's down here. He's a world champion, and he has a guy, Joe Watson, who he's a great guy. I think he's probably top 10 competitor. He's 208 or so. He actually went against Giancarlo, and he had a great match. Giancarlo did end up winning, but he's very good. But he's another guy that gets it. So I came on and I asked if I could train with him, and he said yes. And the first thing he did is he turned around and said, "Can you show us some stuff?" So his mindset wasn't, I'm a top 10 guy. I'm 3 weight classes bigger than this old dude.
Right.
His attitude was, maybe he can show me something. Maybe he can show my students something. Yeah. And, we've rolled a bunch in the past week, and it's always with a smile on our face. So, those are the people that you look for. It doesn't always happen that way. Sure. There are certain people that aren't that way. There was a certain person that I had to roll with at least once a week, and I knew I had to have my game face on, and there would be no mercy. And I had to be fully pumped up for that and fully focused in on every single second of the roll. And that's hard, but sometimes it's good, because you know that you can step up to the challenge if you need to.
Definitely.
And you can shift that gear. So, even if you have 85-90% of the people that are great that you roll with, there'll always be those nemesis out there, but they make you mentally sharper. You can't be lazy with your roll. You got to be ready to get it on, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. It kind of goes with, and Chad has taught me in my time that I've been there so far, like, you can set the pace, or if you feel the other thing, like the other person begin to intense, then you can, obviously pick your intensity up and stuff like that, and there are people, like, I would say, Chad, he said this, like, if you certain people you're going to go up against, it's instantly going to be hard from the go.
Yeah.
Which I love. Like I embrace that. It's really big for me.
Typically as the high rank, I let them set the pace, right? So let's see where they're at, and then we kind of go from there. But, and again, like Dan said, some people you're going to slap hands with, and it's going to be a fight. No matter if it's a white belt, blue belt, it's going to be a fight. But that's part of it. It's part of it.
No doubt at all.
Well, that's awesome, man.
As long as you stand up to pass, right, Terry, you're good to go.
Yeah, that was the most, it'll never leave my head. Obviously, he doesn't have to do that anymore, or say that to me anymore, because I usually just instantly stand up, but he'd yell across the mat all the time, "Terry, get off your knees. Terry, get off your knees," because I'd get in a guard, in someone's guard, and then I would just go to my knees, because I was like, this is safe. I'm closer to the ground. I don't know what I'm doing. And he'd always be like, stand up, stand up, stand up. So now it's like instantly, unless it's that, last minute and I'm rolling with a 20-year-old and I'm like, yep, I don't know that I have a minute of 100% left. My legs feel real heavy right now. I'll stand up. I might fall over, fall on them. So it's all right. Just part of it.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Stand up when you pass the guard. That's the right way to do it. And it's funny because Bernardo doesn't. And I always taught to stand up. And he's like, I like to sit on my knees. But then again, he's world champion, 230 pounds, and he knows how to do that.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Probably, Yeah. He has the best over-under pass there is, I'm sure, right? Like, that's his bread and butter, too.
It is. And, the thing is that I didn't know the over-under before I went there. And it's kind of interesting because I went there when I was 49 years old, and my game is dramatically different because of my exposure to Bernardo, to Giancarlo, to really I had about 3 or 4 months working with Tanico. He had a huge impact on my game in the past 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Huge impact. So, it's funny because I hear young guys that are 30 years old talking about how old they are. And I'm like, come on, I reinvented my game at 49 and, I'm not Superman. It's interesting because you can continue moving forward in jiu-jitsu. You may have to change the way you eat. You may have to change the way you drink. You may have to change the way you work out outside of jiu-jitsu, but you can stay on the mat for a long time.
Sure.
And you can be very, very effective if you pay attention to details, without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so this is my 3rd year as a black belt. And I feel from those 3 years, my game has changed so much. A lot of that I feel is confidence after getting your black belt. You're like, I do know what I'm doing kind of thing, but I've changed a lot. So.
Yeah, well, you can do 8 billion push-ups now, and you could do like 3 when I met you.
Yeah.
It's constantly, he's always texting me, Dan, all the time. He's like, I did this many push-ups today. You get yours in yet? No, not yet.
well, it's funny because, through chat, I met this guy from Tennessee, and ironically, I ended up, moving there, Joel Blanton, and he and I kind of hit it off over and I never met him. Another guy that I just never met. Kind of the power of jiu-jitsu and the power of social media when it's used correctly, though it generally isn't used correctly. But he really kind of showed me how to do using a kettlebell.
Mm-hmm.
And he significantly increased my power. It was unbelievable. And I've never met the dude. And, I would go back and forth and send him a message. And, I showed him doing pictures of doing kettlebells. And he's like, you don't have to throw it that high, and so he, again, another person that made an impact on me that I've never met. So I appreciate Joel. Without a doubt.
Good dude. Very good dude. Yeah. Some serious kettlebell work too. Like his videos that he posts, you're just like, well, I don't want anyone, and you're a prime example too, Dan, like don't complain about whatever age you are or whatever, because you guys are killing it. You know what I mean? Like you get on the mat every day. Joel's like, you watch him videos and you're like, wait a minute, this guy's like, how, he's not super old, you're not super old, but you guys are still putting in a ton of work, which, like you said, younger guys will be like, oh, I'm tired, or oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, so good for you guys. Good on you guys. It's good stuff.
Yeah. It's funny. The over-under pass is underappreciated. And part of the reason is it's far more technical than people think it is. It took me 6 months to really kind of understand it. And you can look at a video and it looks super, super simple. There's so much pressure, balance, small little fights that you have to utilize in order to get exactly the proper head position, the proper elbow position. It's a very technical move. Those that do get good at it, it's almost unstoppable. Nothing's unstoppable, but it's, unless it's Bernardo. If Bernardo gets the over-under pass, it's unstoppable, without a doubt. So you have to not allow him to get the head into the proper position. But, I bring that up because sometimes in jiu-jitsu, people become a jack of all trades. And Bernardo joked to me, and he said, well, Marcelo Garcia knows 100 positions and he trains and he can do them all well. I only know 11 positions. I don't know 12. I only know 11, but all I do is those 11 positions.
Yeah.
And when you roll with him, he's so good at what he does. And he has an amazing omoplata, without a doubt. And I have a video of training with him about a month ago before I left. And he hit me with a really sweet omoplata. And I was like, wow, that's a world champion omoplata without a question. but that's what he does. And he was very, very dedicated to being in those positions with a lot of different people and learning how the balance worked. So sometimes I think that we're always rushing to do the newest, fanciest thing.
Yeah.
When in fact, I think it's important to really understand each position, drill it like crazy, be willing to take risks, and figure out how your body makes it work for you, because it's a little bit different for everybody else. Because someone might have a shorter body that's super powerful, so they can do things differently. But I'm like Chad, I'm 162 pounds and 6 feet tall, and I'm long and lanky. So I do things very differently than those guys. But each of the moves that you do, I think that you really need to figure them out by drilling very hard against a lot of different body types, and taking risks and kind of training in a way that you're going to figure out, how am I going to make this just like breathing? How can I do this when I'm not thinking, but my body just learns to react, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Complete sense. That's kind of what I've gathered. Go ahead, Chad.
No, so Dan, I got a question. So I rode with a couple of white belts the other day. They've been around a while, some stripes on their belts. So we've done our, the X Pass series. We do leg weave. If somebody brings a knee shield, you stand up, reset, right? So I still have guys wanting to drive through that leg weave, and I'm like, hey, or not leg weave, knee shield. They want to drive through that knee shield, and I'm like, you got to put this into your game. You mentally have to think, how do you get somebody to do that? What's your opinion? Like,
it's actually super hard for certain people, because they just don't have the mentality to open up and listen and learn.
Right.
And I think that as a teacher.
Yeah.
But the way that I tend to do it is I'll do a lot of situational sparring, without a doubt, and we'll drill something over and over again under supervision. And when someone just drives through it, we'll stop it and say, you just can't do that. Right. This is what you have to do. And I want to see you try to do this. I think that's one of the challenges of teaching math or teaching jujitsu or teaching history. Are people going to actually listen to you? And right. There's no magic ingredient.
Yeah.
But I think that probably someone like you, people, if you earn their respect and you lead by example, where you're doing, the basic drills up and down the mats, just like all the other guys, they're more apt to listen to you. But I do think that positional sparring and saying, okay, let's say that they only drive through, you would say, you can't do this. Here are 3 options, and I want you to only try these 3 different options.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
So that's my opinion. That's what I've done in the past.
Yeah, positional sparring. That's a great answer. Yeah.
Did you start teaching before you were a black belt? I mean, kind of like.
I did. I started teaching when I was a purple belt, mostly by default, because I manage money and I could work during the week. And the black belt that I was under, he ran a construction company too, because he probably needed additional income to run his life and his family. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to teach during the day because I had kids at home. And so he said, well, you can teach the noon class. So I started teaching partially because of business, partially because of family, and also because of the lack of availability. Because back when I started, we would be training in a warehouse on terrible mats. Now it's a professional business where you can make an income.
Yeah.
This used to be the group of people that I grew up with training. They all had other jobs. There was no money in it, no money at all. And it was, you didn't have the amazing Fuji mats that we have now and the laser design systems that are wonderful and I'm all for. So I'm not saying the old days were better, but I remember that we used to leave the mats and I used to have little black foam in my ears, literally up my nose. I'd blow my nose because it would be like as if I were, a coal miner.
I was going to say,
it was so nasty. And, but you know what, that's what we had, and that's what we did.
Sure.
So I taught just because I wanted to train. Other people wanted to train during the day, and there was no one else willing to do it.
And that was in Boston, right? Is that where you started?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so. I thought
Boston Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. Awesome. What pushed you to get into it? Like, what was your switch?
Well, like Chad, I grew up, I did karate from the time I was 19, in college on. So I played football when I was younger, and when I went to college, I was busy because I was working while going to college, and so it was funny because I hurt my back playing football, and there was this girl that I was interested in, and she did karate. So that's the end of the story.
I was going to say point A to point B. You're good.
Exactly. And so, she lasted 2 weeks, and I've been doing martial arts for 35 years. I know. So I did karate. I did a whole team. I actually was on the Andre Tippett, bare knuckle team. Andre Tippett was a football player in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was an amazing karate guy. He actually credits his Hall of Fame career to his understanding of, Weichi-Ryu and Jiu-Jitsu, the old style American Jiu-Jitsu, not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
And he used a tremendous amount of hand fighting, which is now all the swim moves that you see in the NFL. Yeah. He was one of the innovators of not just bum rushing someone and throwing them to the ground, but actually using the hands and the shoulders for leverage. And he brought that from Weichi-Ryu.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So he taught me a whole bunch of really good stuff. And then, like everybody back then, I saw the UFC one, and I started, saying, wow, would my stuff work against, these guys? And so I seeked out a jiu-jitsu gym that did MMA, and the jiu-jitsu guy was like a blue belt, and I could do fine stand up with him. And when he took me down, it was a different world. I was a okay wrestler when I was a kid, so it was probably less dramatic than many people, where you see, a striker getting to the ground, then getting their ass kicked, because I could get back up and stuff like that. But it was just uncomfortable. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Sure. Right.
So I started cross training in karate and jiu-jitsu. But Andre retired from the NFL and shut down his karate school. And so I didn't have a karate school. So I just kind of fell over to jiu-jitsu full time. And I had been migrating anyway. But that kind of allowed me to migrate completely. And I was going to go to Okinawa to get my black belt in Weichi-Ryu. I already had a black belt in Shotokan and stuff like that. But, everything kind of changed because he got turf toe. I don't know if you know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And he had to retire due to turf toe. And so that it was too painful for him to train for a while, and he just kind of let it go.
I see. That's still great though, because it was, obviously it impacted you. Not that most martial arts do not impact us all, but he played in the NFL.
Yeah. I'll never forget. We were sparring one time, and 100% true story, no exaggeration. I scored a point off of him with a round kick, and he kicked me with a front kick, and I went like in the air 7 feet. It's almost like the cartoon where butt is back and my hands and my toes are touching one another, and I'm flying, and I hit the wall. And that actually happened. And, I was like, and my stomach hurt for like 10 days. And,
is that like an aha moment? Like, oh, wow. Like, he's powerful.
Yeah. He had a bunch of choice words saying, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that." And, and he was like, "But you scored against me." And I'm like, I'm okay. So funny story.
Have you ever had a moment like that in jiu-jitsu with anybody where you were like, whoa, as you went through,
I've had a lot of moments like that. For instance, I started doing, the leg lock game because I was feeling really confident with my jiu-jitsu. And I started rolling with this guy who had amazing leg locks and heel hooks. And over Christmas break, when, the gym shut down, Boston Brazilian shut down, I went to do some private training with some guys. We had like 10 black belts on the mat, and he showed up. I got heel hooked like 15 times that week. And I thought that I would be in winning positions, and suddenly I'm getting heel hooked. And it was mind blowing, and I didn't know how to deal with it. Meaning it was okay getting tapped, but I was like, I don't even understand what happened here. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a moment that I completely reinvented my jiu-jitsu game to understand how I passed the guard, how I played guard attacks to make sure that my ankles were always in view, and I always had an escape plan for my ankles. And so that's another example where I got decimated for a week, and it's really improved my game dramatically. Now I'm good with heel hooks, and I'm good at escaping heel hooks too. And it's because I got my ass kicked with heel hooks.
Which I know that's not for everybody, that in terms of learning, but I mean, that's something that I took very quickly. Like, I wanted to roll with upper belts, and I wanted them to put me in things so I could reverse engineer it and go, yes, that's like, now I'm good with that. Like, I can see it coming, or I can feel it coming, so that's kind of been my approach of, a little bit, with jiu-jitsu. So that's, that will. And then getting heel hooked, I'm sure instantly you're like, nah, I don't like this.
It's really wild, because I'm sure that those of you that are listening that are good with heel hooks, if you practice escaping heel hooks, it's just like learning how to do arm bars or getting out of chokes. It's a very technical game. Some folks say it's a cheap game. I think that's because they don't want to train heel hooks, or they're afraid of it. So I'll show my bias there, because I was the one who got their ass kicked doing heel hooks when I was in my 40s, and so without a doubt. But it's an incredibly technical game. It changes your whole approach to how you roll, and I think that it makes you a much better practitioner, because you have to pay a lot more attention. You can't just sit back and chill. You have to come up, like Chad was saying earlier, stand up when you're passing the guard. You have to get up. If someone sits back, you've got to stand up as quickly as you can, get that foot to the mat. But once you do that, you're okay. When you learn how to escape, when you learn how to deal with the game, it's just part of the game. So I think that you have to be willing to get tapped, and you have to be willing to approach things with, it sounds silly to say, with an open mind. I think that you have to approach things saying that this is going to make me improve, and this is going to make me a better training partner. And, back to the Limitless podcast, every time I step on the mat, there's this new little technique, and the world of legs has opened up 10 years of new techniques, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a great, I love that explanation, because I think it holds lividity for people to understand it, especially the way that you explained it. And it's a good way to approach jiu-jitsu. I mean, jiu-jitsu obviously is approached many different ways, but it's something that you can build confidence on by looking at it that way, instead of just coming in and going, oh, I'm just going to be this way until you get your ego broke, type deal. So that's pretty sweet. I like that. I'm gonna have to start using that, Chad. See, I look to be taught on this show.
Well,
I'm looking for knowledge. Which, Dan, I always say this to Chad. I'm like, what's so awesome about the jiu-jitsu community is I've never not once seen that not happen, like passing of the torches or so open and willing to, I want you to get good at jiu-jitsu. I'm here. I've gotten good. And just the way you're speaking with us now, I mean, that seems to be like your thing too. Like you want to give the knowledge to people. You want them to be good at jiu-jitsu and love jiu-jitsu the way that you do.
100%. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. And you know, we talk about the small community, but look, just the people like Dan and I have never met, but look how the circle of people he has met through that conversation. So back it up a little bit. I met Dan through messaging through Nathan Smith, one of my blue belts, right? Nathan went to Grove City College where Dan's son went, right, Dan? He went to Grove City.
Yep.
And Nathan started a jiu-jitsu club up there and found out Dan was a black belt and was texting me. And then that started the whole thing. Right. So
I made sure to ask if it were okay if I taught your student.
I do remember that. Yeah.
That's how we met, because I think that you have to have that respect there for the instructor.
Yeah.
So at least that's the way I do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and through that conversation, you know, you met Klingerman and Joel Blanton, and we've talked to John Carlo. So it's just amazing how it works. You know, it's so small still.
Yeah.
So
that's what makes this so fun.
Yeah.
Like doing this, the opportunity to talk to people, put people in front of each other, and then pass on knowledge, you know, like that's what we want to, you know, that's one of the big things for us, like passing on as much information. I tell guys even now, you know, just being a white belt when they come in or something, I'm like, just relax, enjoy it. And I said, everyone here wants you to be better, like wants you to succeed, you know, and it's like, just remember that when you leave here, maybe you can pass that forward in something else you do in life. Cause that's like jiu-jitsu, man. That's what makes it.
I'm still afraid to roll with Pete.
He's never met Pete. I've sent him some videos of Pete. Yeah.
Pete is the unassuming person you would never. Yeah. But he's like he's as strong as he's the Incredible Hulk in the small package. Like, I mean, I went to leg weave on him last week. And I remember you're like, hey, like if they have your ankle, just go ahead and leg weave. Like that's a lot of pressure. Yeah. Not on Pete. I went to leg weave and I literally caught myself because my ankle never moved. Knee went over, hit the mat, and I was like bounced straight back up and just stood right back up. And I was like, we're not going to do that. Not to Pete. Like he had a hold of my leg and it was never coming out of his hand.
And he's the most like he's the most humble guy. Like I brag and tell more stories to people than he would. Nobody would ever know what he does if it wasn't for me telling them like the craziness. I didn't tell you this, Dan, but him and his wife celebrated their 21st wedding anniversary last week.
Oh, wow.
So Pete did 1,100 pull-ups and 1,000 push-ups to equal 21, right?
Oh,
and he did it like in 2 hours.
I was going to say,
crazy,
like he does it. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's the nicest guy you're ever going to meet. You know.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just kidding. I'd love to train with them. We'd have a great time.
We're gonna one of these days we're gonna make it line up.
Oh, definitely. No doubt at all.
We'll get it.
I just celebrated my 25th wedding anniversary with my beautiful wife, and we ended up going to Cracker Barrel having pancakes because we were in a hotel in Tennessee, and one of our kids was playing football, one of our kids was going to play tennis, and we were like, we have 11 minutes with this kid, so we're gonna, you know, we're going to have excellence and mediocrity.
There's nothing wrong with grabbing some pancakes on your 25th anniversary at Cracker Barrel because there's a huge number in there. It's called 25. So I think it's okay.
It's all good.
That's awesome.
It's very cool. We're never going to stop laughing about that. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. If it's putting a smile on your face and bringing laughter and joy to it, that's great. Dan, go ahead, Chad.
Dan, did you know Nathan got married?
I didn't. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The last weekend of July 31st.
Yeah, I was going to say it was July.
Yeah, July 31st. He just got back from his honeymoon. So
Yeah, I saw him this
tell him
week.
congrats.
Yeah.
He's such a good kid.
Yeah. Oh, he's awesome. He is awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
He's a gentle giant. If he had more aggression in him, he's just such a nice kid, without a doubt.
Yeah.
He's somewhat like my son, although my son he's 22 and he's a very nice, sweet kid, but sometimes the alarm bells go off and he goes nuts. Without a doubt.
Does he train? Does he train jiu-jitsu?
It's fun to watch him roll. It really is.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So he does train. He's
a blue belt, right, Dan?
Nice.
Yeah, he's a 2-stripe blue belt. And he's really good, but he's easy to roll with. So he could roll with a 135 pound, lady correctly, competitively, without putting an extra 90 pounds of pressure on them, or he can roll with a 250 pound guy and hang with them. So he has that balance where he understands that when you roll with people that you're bigger than, you try to roll at their weight, and you try to say, and I think this is good advice for some bigger guys, because some guys don't know how to roll with smaller guys. It's an opportunity, if you're bigger than someone else, to work on your quickness and to work on your speed and not using your power. So when I match up bigger guys with smaller folks, I say, you can't hold a position for more than 3 seconds. And I want to see you passing on your feet. And I want to see you using technique where you have to use speed and really test your cardio. So for me, that's one thing that I've kind of emphasized with Nick, my son, because sometimes he'll roll against smaller guys, and I say, get up and get moving, and try to get your heart rate up, and try to do something that you're not used to doing, and do not smash them. Just don't do it, because that doesn't help you. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. That's great advice. It's perfect advice, to be honest with you. And there's it's like, is it a way, like, you have to humble yourself? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like in this, like, no, I need to just relax and go, hey, that person's, 30, 40 pounds less than I am. Let me work on something else, instead of just like smash passing or pressuring or getting top control and just hanging on them. You know what I mean? Like, I know and Chad, you've kind of talked about that, like, roll with your, like, whoever you're going with, but you've talked to me about that. It's like, when I roll with you, like, I'm not trying to I'm 220, Dan. So I'm 6'1", 220. So it's like, Chad and I have a huge weight difference. So I know going in and rolling with him, it's like, no, I'm going to work on something else. Granted, he's a black belt, I'm a white belt. I have way long time to learn. And, I started my journey at 43. I had to remember how old I am. I'm 44 now. So yeah.
Young man.
Yes. Except when I roll with the 22-year-olds, and then I'm like, oi. I love it because I love the workout and I love the hard breathing and just I'll end up working on breathing control then, because I know, like, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. You just got to learn how to roll with those guys. I asked, we had a black belt years ago that taught with us, Charles Allen. He was a Pedro Sauer guy. And I would tell him, or I would ask him, like, man, I can't keep up with these young guys. He's like, why are you trying? You don't need to, don't do that. Because if you hit this level, they have this level, and it's just going to keep going. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's where you slow them down. You can make them slow down. That's the only time I'll play close guard, is to slow somebody down for a minute. Then I open back up, and, and I feel, and because just rolling with Terry, he slows down with me because he knows I'm a little more technical and I'm not going to go harder. White belt, you go hard, I go hard, you go hard, right. I go hard, and 100%. You can't get away with just using your strength with a higher rank.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
White belt versus white belt, same size, strength is going to win,
Whoever pulls that stronger and gets to a stronger position.
And that's not to say, people always, you hear people say, don't use your strength. Well, I'm not saying don't use your strength. That's like telling me not to be flexible. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's your attribute.
Right.
It's just learning how to do it, and not just being a a jerk, I guess.
Yeah. Right. That has to you wear that out pretty quickly. Yeah. You try to.
Yeah. And we don't have anybody like that. That again,
no.
that gets weeded out very fast.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. Wow. That's good.
Yeah.
It leads out fast. So I got to ask you this, Dan, because you've listened to us. So I'm going to ask you to, you already kind of went into it, but you can talk more about it if you want. What BJJ means to you, and what do you want your legacy to be out of that?
That's a great question. And what it means to me is the ability to share a community with people and test yourself every single day, without a doubt. So in terms of, it's an interesting question, because BJJ for me, I kind of struggle with certain elements of it, because sometimes it becomes very sort of cultic in a way. And so that aspect of it doesn't really appeal to me. But the way I look at it is, it's like when I was a kid and after school, I'd meet with a whole bunch of my friends and we would play football. And we would play football for hours and hours and hours, and we loved every single minute of it. So BJJ to me is an extension of that community that I had when I was in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. It's really about pulling people together with very different backgrounds and working towards one common goal to try to get a touchdown, or try to complete a pass, or try to, make a tackle, like I was when I was a kid. So I think that it's an integral part of my life. I think that you can do it in many different types of disciplines, without a doubt. But that love of life that comes through by pursuing a goal individually, but also within a group, is not easy to find when you get older. Because from my perspective, BJJ is a very individual sport, but it's also a team sport. Or a team pursuit. You just like I mentioned earlier, is when you don't feel great or when you step on the mat, one of your main goals should be to try to help your training partner improve. And there are not a lot of endeavors that you can pursue nowadays, or especially once you're out of college or once you're older, in order to fulfill that, I think, human felt need to be an individual, but be part of a group.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, completely makes sense. Yeah. And that's what I love so much about that question, is because it's going to be different for everybody. And that's what I want, because I think people in the world that are listening, and they can take those pieces and apply them to a lot of other things, not just jujitsu, but if you're in jujitsu, then you can take this knowledge and the way you see it, and our other guests. I always ask that question. It's always, I think it's kind of important, so they can use it in their lives. So yeah, I think that makes complete sense.
And in terms of a legacy, it's funny because, I think that every day when I hit the mat, I want to be known as someone who tried their hardest, but also brought joy to the mat. I have IBJJF golds and I've won tournaments, and that's nice, but it's far more important to me. Like, for instance, when I would get on the mat with Giancarlo, he gave me a small compliment offhanded that he probably didn't even recognize. We were doing warm-ups and he said, "Dan's always ready to go and work hard." And that's all that matters to me. I really don't care about anything else. And I think every day, if I get up and I try my hardest on the mat and I smile and I try to bring enthusiasm to the group, the game is won. It's over with. Yeah. That's my.
And just being a good person too. Like I tell a story. During COVID last year, me and Dan were chatting a lot through that time, right? During lockdown and stuff. And we were talking about supplies, and you couldn't get wipes and this. And a week later, I get a box from Dan. He sent me Clorox wipes and some other stuff for the gym, right? Like that's awesome. That's just, the people in jiu-jitsu are amazing, you know, and that's something little that didn't take you any time, but that, you know, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one day, you know, maybe you'll be sending me Clorox wipes. when I'm drooling in a mold, maybe you'll send me a towel or something.
Yeah.
It'll be like going on the mat. And we joked about this before. I was like, well, I'm kind of in it now for good. And we'll be getting walkers. When we were talking to Todd Fox, and we had Todd Fox on, and he was talking about making this special walker and, you know, like getting out there on the mat and staying on the mat. I was like, yep, that's kind of like how I'm going to be.
I could talk to Bernardo. We could do a Fanatics DVD with walkers.
Yeah. He would have a smile on his face the whole time too.
You know, that dude is no different than what you see, you know, on It's My Huge Honor. That is actually who he is. People that don't know him might think it's kind of like a business come on.
Sure.
That is exactly who he is. His joy and enthusiasm for life are unbounded. I mean, it's remarkable, and he's a very genuine person. So, you know, if he says something, he means it, and sometimes he's not politically correct. So he'll tell you how he feels.
Sure,
he'll just tell you how he feels. But no, I love the guy. We've become really good friends, and you know, he has a great heart, without a doubt.
That's awesome. Yeah. When we talked to Giancarlo, he was like, because Chad, you asked that.
Yeah, I think I asked him. I'm
You're like, does he always smile?
Yeah. Is he always happy? He's like, yes.
Yeah.
Hey, he's a millionaire now. Why the hell not?
Dan, you're not saying that helped, right?
Yeah, he was that way before.
Yeah.
I'm just having fun.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Well, it was awesome too.
He and his wife just had a baby. So
oh, did they? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, he's all fired up about that. So it's pretty awesome.
Good for him, man. What a big blessing. Big opportunity to enjoy life differently when you have kids.
How are you boys doing, Chad?
Pretty good. They're doing good. School's about.
I was going to say,
school's about to start. So, yeah. Doing
good.
Driving.
Glad to hear it.
Or temp driving, I should say.
Yeah, they got their temps. They have to actually go through the school of, you know, actual driving still, but
actual driving.
Well, the school
simulation.
Part, you know.
I know, simulation driving with dad in the Jeep.
Yeah. Carter likes driving my Jeep a lot.
Who wouldn't?
especially at that age. Like, what? A big Jeep? Sure. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah. Levi doesn't like to drive a whole lot.
He's going to make his brother drive him around.
He probably will. I've noticed that in their age group. I don't know if you've noticed it, Dan, but kids aren't like in a rush to get their license like we were.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I've totally noticed it.
Yeah. I have a niece that is 21 or 22. She don't have her license.
Wow.
Just like.
And my oldest is going to be 14 here in December. And he already is like, I have no desire to get my license. Like, he's like, I don't like, it's not really there, Dad. Like, I don't really care about that. And I'm like,
like we couldn't wait.
Right.
Totally.
I remember
totally. After, when I was in high school, you know, after we'd play football, we'd get a case of beer and we'd work on cars till 12 o'clock at night. It was the greatest thing in the world, without a doubt. And so my wife jokes that I have a girlfriend. I have a 69 Z28. So
nice.
With 850 horsepower. So, you know, that it keeps me moving, without a doubt.
Yeah, I bet. That's awesome, man. What color is it?
Yeah. It's a candy red. So I can send you a picture of it. But part of the reason I started to do it, back to what you were just saying, is that kids nowadays just work on their iPads and stuff. And I wanted my kids to see how to actually turn a lug nut. Right. You know, that remarkable thing where you actually use a tool to do something, you know? And so I kind of felt like it was important that they'd understand how mechanical things work, because it's somewhat of a lost art, without a doubt.
Yeah. And it is. I think about that stuff now with having younger kids of it. How long before like those trades just disappear? You know what I mean? Because every time you go somewhere, you know, do a garage or something, a lot of times you have middle age and up. There's not really younger people doing it as much. And you're just like, wow. Or, you know, guys aren't going to that field anymore, doing that kind of stuff. And I grew up around uncles who were mechanics. A 68 is my uncle has a 68 convertible. It's a candy blue. It has white racing stripes on it. It's my dream car. So like, I always joke with them. I'm like, is that in the will? Who's getting that? No, I'm just kidding. But I wonder, like, there'll be people that know how to work on them, like us, that done it or taught kids and taught our own kids or whatnot. But is the trade going to go away? You know what I mean? It's wild.
Yeah, it's interesting. I manage money. That's what my job is during the day. That's how I pay my bills. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of construction clients that I work with. That's kind of a primary business that, you know, of my clients. And what's really interesting is the professionalization of the construction business. When we grew up, it was, you know, basically folks that, you know, swung hammers and did stuff like that, but it's a very technical business. And for instance, if you're an HVAC mechanic, you're making 120 grand a year all day long. Sure. And they can't get enough of them. If you're a plumber or an electrician and you're a journeyman, you're making 100 grand a year all day long. Sure. And they can't get enough of them. My brother runs a roofing company, and he pays the laborers to do the roofing work, and he can't get enough of them. $28-$40 an hour, depending upon how much experience they have. Wow, and he can't get enough of them. So I guess my point is that a lot of these trades, due to scarcity and a lack of availability of people willing to do that work, they're completely different trades than when we grew up.
Sure. Right.
And the opportunities to do well are incredible. I mean, you can be a software designer, which is wonderful, but those jobs could easily be shipped over to India. If your toilet goes, you know, good luck calling India.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
You gotta be there. And, you know, without a doubt. So, I think that there's a price to be paid when a society turns its back on people that actually know how to work with their hands, without a doubt. So, but then again, there are opportunities, because I think the average age of an electrician in the country is in his mid or upper 50s. I think it's 56 and a half or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So if you're a young guy and you want to make a difference, you can go in and you know that you're going to be making a lot of money. Without a doubt.
You guys keep talking. My dog is like in my face. I got to move her.
Yeah. So I know that's not jujitsu, but, you know, maybe someone. No. I think sometimes people think, you know, oh, I just want to be a plumber. I just want to be an HVAC tech. And I'm like, that's freaking awesome. Yeah. That's totally awesome. Yeah. I think there are a lot of opportunities there, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And those folks are very technical. You have to be smart to do that stuff because the manuals are very complicated. Right. So, you know, things have changed, without a doubt.
Yeah. And I'm doing it with my boys. Like Levi wants to go into law enforcement as of right now. Nice. But Carter has no clue what he wants to do. He's like, I don't want to go to college. Like, he just, you know, some people aren't, you know, I didn't go to college, you know, but, you know, he's talked about working for UPS or FedEx or like Amazon just bought one of the local golf courses here for $12 million. Like, wow. And they're building a huge Amazon facility on it. Yeah. So you know, so there's definitely other things you can do, but I can't imagine. And they're going to graduate at 17 years old, which is young, you know?
That's really young. Yeah.
They don't turn 18 until next June. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Oh, I know
Yeah.
that, but you know, I'm sure things are going to go well for them. It's hard to imagine that, you're making all these difficult choices at 15, 16 years old. And there's so much pressure that, the world puts on you, that if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to be a failure. Or if you don't go to college, 90% of it, people are not doing anything that they learned in college. No. It's a waste of money. It's a big come on. But that's another issue altogether. College is great. I have master's degrees and all that stuff, but it was for a specific targeted purpose. But to just kind of go to college to party and come out with 6 figures of debt, it's idiotic. Mm-hmm. It's a sales job, without a doubt. Yeah. So, but that's another issue altogether.
That's another podcast.
Don't go down that road.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm sure you had some other questions too, so I don't want to get off topic.
Oh, no, you're completely fine. Yeah. Like I said before, like we just hang BJJ out and hang out and talk about Chad's beard, and it gets in the way when we roll, and I don't want to rip it out. No.
You're not going to rip it out.
You can use his beard as part of your lasso guard, I guess. It's funny you mentioned closed guard, Chad. There's one thing that Taniko had really kind of drilled into me about 4 months ago, was the reintroduction into closed guard, because so few people, especially with the modern game, play closed guard.
Very true. Yeah.
And he basically, and John Carlo too, a bit too. They would do positional rolling like we did before, and you had to use your closed guard. And so they showed me some stuff. I remembered stuff that I'd forgotten decades ago, which is always kind of scary. But I've also developed some new stuff, which I'll send you videos on, which are really cool, and they work. They work really, really well.
Nice.
So, so I'll definitely have to get those out to you.
How many instructional videos have you made, Dan?
You know what? I haven't made any for sale with BJJ Fanatics, but I have a whole group of people that I send, including Giancarlo. I'm always sending Giancarlo videos, and then we talk about them. But I have a group of people that I send a video to about once a week or so. And then we kind of go through them. Some are black belts. I basically, what I like to do when I teach people, I'll teach just about anyone, but I actually love to take guys that are more advanced and help them really kind of see things a little bit differently. Because sometimes they're drilled in on their skill set, and it's nice to have another set of eyes to say, you're doing this really well, and I appreciate that, but maybe you should just try to do this, and then kind of see some results from that.
Yeah.
So a lot of the videos that I do are in response to what people ask me. So I'll have them send me a roll where they're rolling for 5 minutes, and then I'll take a look at what they're doing, then come up with some ideas and send them back to them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, we did that. We did that back and forth a little, Dan. There was no video of rolling, but I was having some, not that anybody doesn't have issues rolling with Pete, but we did that where we were hooking the leg and grabbing your shin. I don't know if you remember that. But
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that helped a lot. It changed a lot of things.
Cool. Yeah. And I think that, taking advantage of video is part of the professionalization of jiu-jitsu. That you see that with DDS and Atos and the Mendez guys, is they took, like, for instance, I mentioned earlier that we would just get together, go up and beat the crap out of each other, and roll on foam pads, and we just kind of did stuff. And but nowadays it's a professional sport, and if you're a baseball player, you have a professional videographer looking at your swing, and you make minor adjustments, and it makes a maximal change.
Yeah,
you can do the same thing with jiu-jitsu, without a doubt. So I think that professional coaching, that's what I'm very interested in now. Without a doubt, I want to compete more. I love competing. I don't get nervous at all competing. And I'll compete in any state that I'm in. I just competed didn't just compete, in March down in Orlando. And, I was a little bit had a little bit of a messed up arm, but I didn't care. I just wanted to be there. And it's part of the reason is that I wanted to get some video to see how I'd react to certain situations.
Nice.
So I think that videotaping roles and videotaping classes and videotaping, like if you're doing situational rolling, like that guy jamming through the knee shield, if you videotape that and show them how it's kind of not working as well as it should work, and here are some other options, I think that that's how you can significantly improve your output, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see a day where classes are live stream broadcasts as just part of what you do, and you have your community of students or people that are interested, and almost like watching a fight to win match. And then going back and studying film, like Gordon Ryan always talks about how he goes back to film, and the DDS guys study small, minute details. And I think that's, other than them working as hard as anyone, working like they're professional athletes, they employ other details that many other schools do not employ. And I think that's one reason why they've had a tremendous amount of success.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Makes complete sense. And I've always been a proponent of breaking down film. I think there's no other way, besides obviously doing it, but there's no other way that you're going to fully be able to see a smaller increments of small technique. And, Chad, we joke all the time and stuff, but I'm the question guy. Like, I'm always asking questions. I'm always like, come here, like, should this happen or this be specific? And I know, that's just how my brain works, even though I'm, young in the jiu-jitsu world, but
you got to ask, you have to ask. And that's what I think that's what makes me a better instructor too, is when I get those questions on the spot, right? You might not know the answer right away, or Terry will catch me as like, hey, why do you put your hand there? I'm like,
right.
Hold on a minute. You got to think about it.
Yeah. That circles back to, like, Dan, what you talked about earlier, like jiu-jitsu, you become so good at it to where, it's like breathing, like your muscle memory, your hand goes to a certain spot. And that's where Chad will be like, wait a minute, let me do it real quick on you. And I'm like, oh, right there. Like, where your hand's at. And he's like, oh yeah. Okay.
No doubt. And I think as instructors, I'm sure Chad will say the same thing, is, we want to impart technical knowledge and wisdom on our students, and we want good questions. Some people ask questions to hear themselves be heard, and that's another issue altogether.
Sure.
But I think that's part of the joy of teaching. And, having that sort of environment where you can ask an excellent question, and then you can immediately make an impact on a student by saying, well, no, the grip shouldn't be this way. It should be this way. Or, you're driving through the knee shield. Instead of doing that, why don't you use some lateral movement and try to open things up a little bit so you can sneak through? I think that's another way that you create a more maximal environment. Yeah.
And I do a lot too, instead of just, a lot of instructors point like, do this, do that. It's like, no, sometimes I'll grab somebody's hand and say, do this, or Terry, lay down, let me do it to you so you can feel the way the body moves or whatever. Right. So,
which has helped a tremendous amount for me.
Yeah.
Because that works for me. Not, training works for me,
but one of my first instructors, Dave Miller, who when I trained in his basement, right? My first seminar I ever went to was Vitor Shaolin, right? I was a white belt. I probably had no business there, right? But Dave was asking questions. And I'm like, if this guy can ask questions, he said, it doesn't matter, ask something. And I do that when I take Pete's no-gi class. I might know the answer, but I ask the question anyway, because somebody there probably was wondering and might not think of it or don't want to ask. Yeah, so try to ask.
Yeah.
No doubt at all.
Yeah. So
awesome. Well, we're not going to keep you too much longer, man. We appreciate you, Dan, so much. Who you want to shout out?
Well, I think that my time at Bernardo's was truly amazing, but I'm looking forward to the next adventure and hanging out with all the new folks that I'll meet down here in Tennessee. So guys like Sam Braga, Joe Watson, who's a great dude, really nice guy, a young guy. I think that he's going to have a lot of success without a doubt. But so currently right now, that's what I'm looking forward to. Awesome. But I really miss my guys back in Boston because, I had a whole routine and I had a whole group of people that were outstanding that kind of fit into my day, and I could create a whole day. And now I'm in a new state. I've been here for 5 days, but I get to create a whole new routine. And so there's wonderful stress with that. There'll be growth, there'll be setbacks. So I think that in terms of a shout out is I just can't believe how many people have impacted my game. And I just pray that, they're safe and that they do well and they continue to prosper without a doubt. But looking forward to new challenges and hanging out with new people.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool. You inspire me, man. You inspire me just because of your work ethic. I'll joke because I'm only 44 years old, but I'm like, some days I leave the gym and I'm like, I'm too old for this. I'm like, I went a little too hard. I'll text Chad when I get home. He'll be like, you all right? I feel like I get hit by a train tonight, but it's cool. I'll be all right. Just let me go to bed. I'm just kidding.
One thing I learned as I got older is the way you feel when you wake up in the morning isn't how you're going to feel in the next 2 hours. And often when I get out of bed, I'm walking around like I'm a 95-year-old cripple. My boys make fun of me and I'll be like, I'll kick your ass, but you got to give me about 10, 15 minutes before I can.
Yeah. Let me warm up.
Exactly. Part of my warm up is definitely warm coffee. So
yes. Nothing wrong with that. Coffee is a good thing.
We'll have to get you some coffee from our friends at the gym. They have a coffee company, M&H Beans.
Nice.
So
yeah, they do. They roast their own. They roast their own beans. A bunch of different types. Some Honduras. They have different styles of beans that they get in, and he does all his own roasting, everything. So it's really good coffee. My wife just fell in love with it, and now it was like, okay, where's my M&H beans at? I'm like, okay, honey, here's a whole pot. There you go.
Yeah, good coffee is proof of God's existence.
Yes. That's great. Yes, that's awesome. Very cool. All right, man. Well, Dan McCarthy, thank you so much. Hey, real quick, your lineage. What's your lineage?
Carlos Jr. was the I think that Roberto got his black belt from Carlos Jr., but Roberto Maya is cousins with Renzo Gracie. So I was always confused exactly where it came from, but it came down from the Carlos line to Roberto Maya, and then through Bernardo Faria. There's one other guy out there that a lot of people don't know. His name's Patrick Barbieri, and he is an unsung hero. He is amazing. He's in his mid-50s right now, but his jiu-jitsu was off the chart. You could ask Lloyd Irvin about Patrick Barbieri if you ever talked to Lloyd about him, but the dude was a legend. You ask Kenny Florian about Patrick Barbieri, and so he's a guy. I've been talking to him in many years, but you asked about a shutout. He really changed my game 20 years ago, and I still use what he used. But his toughness, his athleticism, I think that he was someone that came that kind of foreshadowed where the game was going to go, because he was a remarkable athlete. And so he combined his remarkable athleticism with his jiu-jitsu, and you're seeing that in the game now. Remarkable athletes coming in.
Yeah.
Of a different game. People that say that strength, speed, and stamina don't matter are ignorant or lying.
Yeah.
Or they're pretending.
Yeah.
the avatar, in their mind, But the truth of the matter is, he's a guy that, I wish more people knew about, because he absolutely remarkable, without a doubt. But I bring that up because there are probably many people out there that no one will ever hear about that were pioneers. And, before jiu-jitsu got big, we stand on their backs, and no one may know who they are. But they kind of live through folks like us.
Right.
That continue to bring the knowledge to the next generation.
Yeah. That's what I think, and a little bit what when I asked the legacy question, like that is part of the jiu-jitsu community legacy. Like there are people that may never be known by others, but there's people like yourself, Dan, that is able to give that knowledge and information out and mention those people. And then you also learned technique from them, and then you're passing that technique forward, so that legacy continuously grows and expands. So good on you, and good on everybody out there that's doing that, man. That's awesome.
Cool. Well,
thanks, man.
Thanks, guys. That was a blast.
Yeah,
it was great. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you, man, and everything going on in your life, moving and getting everything handled, and sitting down with us, man. Appreciate it so much.
No, this was awesome. This is kind of like going to jiu-jitsu. You're busy in your life, but you figure it out. You make a plan, and you allocate the time, and you make it happen. And you're better off for it.
100%. Yeah,
well, thanks,
100%.
guys. So much fun. Well, I look forward to hearing this. So we'll talk soon.
All right, my man. Very good.
Brother.
Take it easy. Hey everyone, we hope you enjoyed the show today. Remember, go out there and check out all our sponsors. That's RollAmongUs.com, BattleBomb.com. At checkout, put in Limitless20 to get a 20% discount on all products. We appreciate it very much. Not only will you be supporting them, but you'll be supporting the Limitless Radiocast podcast. It helps us come back each and every week, bring content to you guys and everything that you do. We love you guys. We're appreciative of you guys. We thank you for all the support. You guys take care. Come back next week.